Girl, don't know why you just smile so pale. I see worry in my mother's eyes. So if the walls came crumbling down, you might find glory bound.
There we go. That's the motherfucker that makes the great music.
Here I am. Oh, dude, thank you. How you doing, man? I see that Bills sweatshirt.
Oh my God, my team.
I'm so sorry.
I know, me too.
I'm an Eagles fan, and I feel like there's a certain kinship between our fan bases just because, I don't know, it seems that way from our end.
Well, you guys won a Super Bowl. There used to be.
Yeah, that's true.
Until that happened.
You know what? Yeah, you're right.
But I've always supported, like, I love the Lions. I love, like, I mean, not as much as the Bills, you know. Bills are my number one, that's it. But I root for the Lions. I root for Cleveland. I used to root, you know, Philly.
Yeah.
And
I feel that, man. Yeah, it's Joe Burrow and that team. It's crazy. It's exciting. But you guys are so close. You guys got a bright future. I love Sean McDermott. That's, you know, he came up in Philly under Andy.
Yeah.
Reid. So that was crazy. The playoffs have been crazy, but I'm sorry about that loss. That's tough to swallow.
Yeah, that one, I'm still not over it, but I'm so happy to see like a new leaf being turned in NFL.
Brady.
Yeah, today was it, man.
Hi, dude. Good riddance.
Thank goodness you guys freaking won the Super Bowl.
I know, exactly. It would have been complete futility if someone didn't. Actually, I just saw this, like, NFC East teams, I think it could be between the Giants and, like, when Eli won those years against the Patriots and the Eagles, like, you know, they prevented him from getting however many, like 10 rings otherwise.
Yeah. You guys are heroes of the NFL.
I suppose, yeah. That year it felt like that. Everyone was pulling for us.
And Brian Dable's over there in New York now. That ought to make you a little bit nervous, right?
Wait, is that their new head coach or their new GM?
The new head coach.
Who is it? I didn't even.
Brian Dable. He's the offensive coordinator from Buffalo.
Oh, interesting.
He helped develop Josh Allen.
Oh, that sucks for you guys. Damn. And us, probably. We'll
Yeah.
see. I don't know, man. The Giants are so incompetent, like from the very top down. So like until they actually, I don't know. It seems like a better hire than their last few, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, well, not for you guys, but I don't want to see Dabo go down like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah. Totally.
You're probably right though. Like it's over.
We'll see.
Their whole, you know, ever since what's his name left, the guy who ended up going to Jacksonville,
Tom Coughlin?
Yeah, Coughlin.
Yeah, Tom Coughlin. Thank you.
Tom Coughlin. Ever since he left, it was just like all downhill.
Yeah. It's just terrible. I mean, the GM Gettleman has been so bad.
Oh yeah.
So now it's just, I wonder if they've hired a GM already.
Yeah, it was the assistant GM from Buffalo.
Oh,
that's how.
They just took the whole brain cheese.
They're trying to get a lot of. They took our offensive line coach yesterday, and
oh shit.
Yeah, so it is
the power grab of New York.
Yeah, but why? I mean, I love the city. Don't get me wrong, but I'd much rather be out in. My family's from the Buffalo area.
Yeah. Wow. Cool.
So that's why you know, ever since I was a little kid, Buffalo Bills, everything. But you know, as a kid, I understand like, oh, I'd rather be in the city. But as I got older as an adult, I'd much rather be on the northern side of the country.
Totally. I'm finding my way into that now, in terms of just appreciating getting out of Dodge a little bit.
Yeah. Well, are you originally from Los Angeles?
No, I moved here less than 4 years ago.
And where you originally from?
I grew up in Philly.
Dude, all right. So when I drove, because this summer I drove from Cleveland to New York, and you have to go through Philadelphia, or you have to go through Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Is Pennsylvania not the most beautiful fucking state in the entire world?
It's crazy. I mean, Western Pennsylvania, as you're driving through Pittsburgh, is like gorgeous, I think. And yeah, I mean, it's totally a beautiful state. And the East, eastern side of Pennsylvania is also beautiful. I found, maybe it was just because it was new, but I went to college in Michigan, and when I would drive, it's the same route that you took, like I-80 that whole time. And just like going through Western Pennsylvania for the first time was like, I just thought it was so pretty because it's a lot more, you know, hilly, mountainy, and it's amazing.
But it's scary driving that highway because there's always or I mean from in the summer there's just deers darting out, doosh doosh.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like there so stressed out thinking I'm gonna hit a deer. And
totally, yeah, deer love to hang out in Pennsylvania.
So I mean, you're a talented dude. When I first you know, the publicist sent me this, and usually it's like monotony, dude. You get thousands of emails and you're like, all right, next. And then I hit yours and I'm like, wow.
Oh shit, man.
Wow.
Thanks, dude.
You really remind me of Steely Dan a little bit of Otis Redding, Bill Withers. Like these are, and the way you put your music together, and is it just you?
Dude, first of all, let me just pause and say thank you. I really appreciate it. No, it's not just me. I mean, it's like I primarily have written most of the tunes. I co-wrote a few of them, and that's me on a lot of instruments. But one of my closest friends in LA, this guy Ryan Pauly, who I went to high school with, actually, he's been out in LA for over a decade, producing his own records at his house with a bunch of great gear, and has really like just grown exponentially as an artist and a producer in his time here. And we hooked up to just do one song, and then which ended up being another song, and then another song, and then eventually by the summer of I think 2019, we were like, let's do this whole record. So you know, meeting Ryan, reconnecting with Ryan, and he produced the record. And so the bed of every track on the album was comprised of either 2 to 4 people playing live to tape, which I think just kind of gives it a certain warmth and richness of just live performance. And the band that played, there's a band who goes by Family Company, and they kind of throw these different Bill Withers, Stevie Wonder tribute shows, and have built their own amazing community in town. The drummer is one of my best friends as well, who he and I played in a band going back to college. So there was like 3 or 4 guys that played on at least like 7 or 8, maybe 6 or 7 of the songs on the album. So there's a lot of familiar faces and like a lot of incredibly talented people that I was lucky enough to work with to like bring this to reality.
The one thing, it's weird to even say this, and I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to articulate this to you, but when I was listening to it, my heart was aching.
Oh.
Because I knew that we need this again, like this throwback of music, and reminding me of a different time period, but with different messages. I don't even know, like maybe it's just joy, maybe I don't know what it is, but my heart literally, I can feel like. Have you ever been to church? Have you ever done? I'm not a church guy right now.
Yeah. I know. I mean, first of all, what an incredible thing to say, man. I'm just trying to take that in. Thank you. And yes, I have. I'm Jewish, but I've been to different churches, and I've been to gospel church, and I've felt very deeply moved. Like usually the connection of like church and music is kind of gets me higher than anything.
And that's what I think it was. I'm not sure. It brought me back to a time where I was in church and where I did believe, and I didn't know I can feel this.
Wow, man.
Church.
Wow.
So I'm just so gracious to be in your presence.
Thank you, dude. That's such an amazing thing to say. I mean, I don't know. Like I told you, I was like I grew up in the suburbs of Philly, Jewish kid, like loved hip hop and jazz and, 60s, 70s songwriter and our soul music. Like my parents are the shit and have great taste in music. I hope I can curse. But it's interesting because at an early age, I have had a couple of experiences that were like, you know, being in a Baptist or gospel church and feeling like, holy shit, this is the closest thing to the source I've ever felt. Probably like music being the biggest driver of that, but also, you know, just being in a room of humans like that. So, and I think on the record, like I've always seemingly, a lot of the songwriters and music I kind of like loved and emulated early on, there was always kind of like a religious bend, whether it's kind of like trad music or spiritual music or like early Bob Dylan, where he's just, you know, ripping off other earlier roots musicians. So I feel like spirituality has always been a thread in like the music that I've loved. And I think on this record, which is really a group of songs that were written over, you know, 5 years ago, maybe even longer now, where I'm like living in New York, having a job and feeling totally disconnected from the thing that I love and lights me up. And like that whole yearning and sort of transformation to like moving here, to leaving my job, to making the record. And I think like, that's why the album's called Soon Come, which is this sort of notion of like hope and whatever your life, just kind of like connecting with that up. So I think there are a lot of songs on the record in my own sort of, you know, personal story, which is just like connecting to some of that, tapping into sort of the spiritual realm as it relates to like my own little journey. I don't know. So it's cool that that comes through.
So when you, how do you, two questions. How do you determine that you, like, this is something you want to do? And how do you determine this is a music you want to play?
Your first question was, how do you determine that like music is what I wanted to do, you mean?
Yes.
It's just like, as early as I can remember, been what I most loved. I mean, maybe besides like being like a professional NBA athlete, but I think that was pretty evident pretty early on that that wasn't going to happen.
And you rupturing your Achilles.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna get into that.
That was the universe's final reminder. That's like, why don't you just double down on music there, kiddo? Yeah, I mean, I think it's just always been something that I've loved and that I've wanted to do at a pretty early age. And probably like it was something I was naturally good at. So you get the positive reinforcement. So usually the way humans operate, it's like, oh, okay, I'm getting good feedback for this. Let me just keep doing that. Like the way the kind of brain works. So I'm sure there was plenty of that at an early age, like going back to elementary school. But yeah, and then just all through college, it was always like in college, I started my first band, but I was like, honestly too obsessed to the point where it was like an unhealthy mental thing. But I was so fixated on like, okay, I need to make music my career. But I also was totally like over insuring my failure and like never even tried to do it full time. Like for 10 years after college, my family went through some shit financially when I was in college. And I think subconsciously I was just like, I need to independently support myself. And like, I had this kind of fear of like, if I go for music, I'm going to be broke. And how am I going to have a family? And like, I was 18 years old trying to like have these thoughts. So that was kind of why for a long time, unwittingly, I was sort of playing music, but also having a job. And it was kind of the deal for over a decade. And then, I started to realize I was like, not that happy. And that's when the move to LA happened, and then eventually getting the record made. So as far as when doing music full time has been like a lifelong dream. And I think for a long time, I just was so careful to a fault in terms of like making, working in a full-time job. And then all of a sudden you just wake up and it's been like a decade. And that's not to say I wasn't doing music all that time, but so the why is kind of like, I could talk about that shit for a long time, and I won't. More than I already have. But yeah, it's just to say that whole kind of pursuing music full-time thing has been like a constant narrative for me, but something I've always wanted to do. And I kind of forget the second part of your question now, honestly.
No, you answered it all. You answered
Okay.
everything I needed. Yeah. So let's go. Since we brought up the basketball and Achilles, I would love to. What happened? Like that's my biggest fear is
Yeah.
rupturing my Achilles.
Yeah, it was my fear right before I played too. I mean, basically the pandemic happened. At some point during the pandemic, I had like a little small foot injury so I went from pre-pandemic to having a run where I would play once a week and I'd be sore the next day, but like I'm early 30s, like shouldn't be that bad. And I was, so I went from playing basketball once a week to then the pandemic and like my exercise routine kind of would come and go. And then I had this injury. So all of a sudden it had been like 6 months by the time I played basketball, probably like a year since I was running at all on the regular. And I went for one run knowing I was going to play basketball. I ran like a mile or two. That was kind of fine. And then the next time I went out and tried to play basketball, and it's like your muscles can kind of react quickly, but your tendons don't. So basically I had I was basically idle for over a year and then went and did the most stressful thing in your body, which is basketball, instead of like taking a month to just like get yourself back and playing shape. So that's what happened. And I learned my lesson, but
did you feel it coming on or did it just happen?
Yeah. No, I mean, I felt tired, but like I remember we played the first game and it was like great competition, a great run. And I was like, that was decent, like tired, but I'm hanging here. And then at some point during the second game, I grab a rebound and I'm bringing it up in transition at the top of the key. And like, there's just one guy between me and the bucket. So I kind of like have a hezzy and then start to drive left to push off my right foot. And I just felt like a gunshot in my heel. And I kind of knew immediately what I did. I was like, oh, fuck. It was
What's the
more
pain level on that shit?
Yeah, not that bad, honestly.
Oh,
it was
not?
like, I mean, it was the actual injury itself was more shocking, more of like I was stunned than like pain. The real painful stuff was like before and after surgery in those first few days. It's like you get up and as soon as you're vertical, you just feel throbbing of, blood flow and all this stuff. So I don't wish it.
You could have shot 2 free throws with that.
With it, no. Maybe, I don't know. I wouldn't even try to stand. I didn't get fouled, man. It was just zero contact.
That's what happened to Kobe, remember?
Yep. Oh yeah. I literally right before you called, because I grew up right behind Laura Marion High School. Oh. So I've seen Kobe play in high school, like during like that whole time the whole town was like, so, and I was just watching a little Kobe video right before. He made 2 free throws after he tore his Achilles. I don't remember that.
He walked to the line and shot his free throws, and that was the last time.
Jesus.
Yeah, he's just somebody I really look up to.
Oh man, so hard. Me too.
It was so hard for me to lose him.
Yeah.
It was like, because me and him are roughly the same age. I'm a little younger than him, a few years younger than him. Mm-hmm. And I always used to look to him, how am I supposed to handle this situation? How am I supposed to handle that situation? Like a father or something.
Yeah, totally.
So, or a big brother. It was just hard.
It's something to like constantly check back in with, that Mamba mentality.
So right now we're celebrating your single, Giving Up.
Yep.
Talk to me about that song in particular, because that's a song that really drew me in.
Cool.
When you were the creation of it and the meaning behind it. Good.
Yeah, sure. Well, I wrote that song in like the first year or two I had moved to LA. And I was just seeing a girl. She's like, she's still a friend actually to this day. And so it's all gravy, but it was someone who I had kind of met a year or two earlier. And there was this long kind of like pining for that person. And then it actually kind of, came to fruit. And I think as a result, I just got really into it really quickly. And it just wasn't like a totally mutual situation timing, and it was like the unrequited love situation. You know, you're in something where you're more there for it than the other person, and you feel that, and it kind of drives you up a wall. And you know, you can kind of plot along in that little bout, and then at some point it's just like, all right, like I'm done, and you're kind of just ready to walk away. And I think that's really the story behind that song. There's nothing like really deeper than that. It was kind of, for that reason, we tried to just like have fun with it and kind of the way that we recorded it.
Does that like stay with you? Like, oh, all right, I'm going to show you. I'm gonna be a
it was like
musician, and
yeah.
we're gonna find out then.
Not at all. There's no ill will. I think it happened as the way it should, and I don't think it would have ever been something long term anyway. It's all good. It's like, if anything, like writing the song alone is like making your peace with the whole situation, which I totally have. There was this song that I just couldn't stop watching on YouTube right around the time I wrote this, which was pretty much like the inspiration for it. That was kind of the real life thing. But then also there's this Bob Dylan song, Heart of Mine. It's like, heart of mine, be still. And you know, it's just like, it's basically the Beatles, you gotta hide your love away kind of thing. And it's just like, no vulnerability, hide it away. Don't ever let them know how you feel. And it was this Blake Mills version, if you're hip to Blake Mills, like covering it, which is just so good. So I think that I was basically like, how can I write my own version of this song as I'm like processing this actual thing that's happening to me? And so that's kind of how it happened.
It's awesome, dude. You have your new album soon come. It's open. It starts 3/11, or it comes out 3/11. Yep. How do you feel about it? And what are your feelings? I mean, this is, I think I heard you say 5 years of creating, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, I had another band and we put out a few albums, and then I haven't put out music. The last full album I put out, I think, was like 2013, maybe 14. I don't even know. So yeah, this has been like a long time coming for sure. I feel great though, man. Like, as you can imagine, it's been such a roller coaster and a process at every phase. Like, there's kind of the joy of making it and all the newness that comes with that. There's like the dog days where you're like trying to figure out this one trumpet part on this one chorus, and it's just like you're going back to this, you know, to the woodshed to try to figure it out, and you just feel like you're losing your whole sense of you know, like perspective, and then mixing. And I mean, it's been an amazing process, and I'm just stoked that it's here. And in a lot of ways, as much as you're so eager to just get it out and move forward, like to constantly remind myself that this is actually the very first time people have gotten to know me or my music ever, because I've never put anything else out as a solo artist. So it's been really fun. And especially like of the last few weeks, just starting to feel like little stars align in these little moments and ways, all leading up to the album release. So I'm stoked. And it seems like, God forbid, with COVID, we could be like over this last variant wave, and I'm looking to play a show in April. So if you would have told me like a year or 5 years ago that, like, you know, this spring I'm putting out the debut album with shows, and like I'm through the roof, man. So excited to get the rest of the album out there.
You're the man, dude. We're gonna wind down the interview with a few just fun questions.
Cool.
And you know, maybe you can tell us some cool like notes about you.
Sure.
The first one is, what is your favorite lyric? Not from your album, any album.
Yeah.
Your album.
Oh man. There's the first thing that popped into my head that I don't know if which is Boots of Spanish Leather by Bob Dylan, which is just like the most poetic, gorgeous song about like a lover who's sort of like across the sea, traveling, having her own life, and who eventually like expresses that. Well, I should just recite the final chorus is, well, if you, my love, think that away. So take heed of the western wind, take heed of the stormy weather. And yes, there is something you can send back to me, Spanish boots of Spanish leather. Which is just like snarky as hell. It's like, so I don't know if I would put it as my favorite, but that is one of my favorite songs of all time. And you could pull out any line or verse of that song and that would totally stand on its own. I just always think that song's funny because it's one of those devices where it's like, there's this long back and forth and then he's like, all right, okay, so you're out? Okay, well then send me boots.
All right, next question. Dream concert. Anybody alive or dead, you pick 4 people, one of them is a headliner.
I can pick 4 people?
Alive or dead?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I have to do some version of The Last Waltz and just like run it back. So it'd be like, it's the band headlining the show, but then you're going to see Joni, you're going to see Neil, you know, Van Morrison. If somehow we could throw like a Stevie Wonder, a Bill Withers in there, that's the dream.
Dude,
I mean,
awesome,
other people that would come to mind are like D'Angelo or John Prine, but I've actually seen both of them. And John Prine, I've seen a bunch, but yeah, I think it seems like a pretty dope show.
That's a pretty goddamn good show right there. What is your mom or dad's signature dish?
My dad doesn't cook much, so my dad's signature dish would be like a frozen chicken pot pie. But my mom, man, she goes hard. She's an amazing cook. Thanksgivings are one that she really goes in on, and she's got like a world-renowned garlic mash.
Oh, that sounds good.
Situation that's incredible. Oh shit. I was just trying to think of one other dish of hers. I mean, she's got a pesto chicken situation that she like, you know, it's just like you flatten a couple pieces of chicken breast, layer this pesto on top, a little mozzarella on that, and you just throw it in the oven. It's easy and delicious.
Yeah.
She does a ton of stuff though. I'm selling her short.
All right. What is life teaching you right now?
Patience. I think above all else, patience and kind of trust. There's only so much that, you know, we all can control and do, and kind of recognizing the need to go like more inward in order to, you know, serve the outside world better, whether that's strangers on the street or your friends or family or partner. I think that's a big piece. And also it sounds weird, but I do feel like I'm constantly getting little shoves forward in the direction that I'm going as the album is coming out and as I've like really realigned my life to do music. You know, I feel the universe kind of conspiring with me in a way.
That's awesome. I love that. And my last question is, how have you almost died?
Having a panic attack on an airplane. I thought I was having a heart attack and gonna die. I was like, oh my God, this is it. That was,
What made you freak out?
I wasn't actually at risk and close to dying, but it felt like I was. So that's just where my head went. This was like, man, when I lived in New York, so I went to school in Michigan. I was then in Chicago for 5 years playing in a band with a full-time job and stuff. But then I moved to New York and was really, in some sense, like living in New York in your late 20s. You know, I was making decent money at a job and like living a fun social life, but I was like miserable inside because I was so disconnected from the music and stuff. And I don't know, man, I was probably going through it. And then I was out in Miami, like partied too much, too many drugs, like in my system kind of deal. And just like a wave of anxiety turned into a panic attack on a flight. Crazy. But it was also kind of like a rock bottom of sorts in terms of like eventually taking the change in my life to where I am now. So it's like, I look back on that like in a weirdly fond way, because it's just like, yeah, I so see that, you know, that thread between how I got to one place and how I ultimately like started to steer the ship around.
Dude. Teddy, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your music, and the world is a better place with you in it, buddy.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for doing this and just being such a wonderful human being. Likewise, man.
All right, my man. I will. I'm gonna make this into a video. I'll send you the link, and then I'll also write about this in my March issue of No Cover Magazine.
Awesome, man. So appreciated.
No problem. Thank you so much, Teddy, and have a good day.
Yeah, you too.